Hey guys, it's Alex from 7th Hour Films, back again with Game of Thrones. Last time on Game of Thrones, we finished up Season 4 with the children. Quite a lot actually happened last episode, so it's a quick recap. Jon was going to attempt killing Mance Rayder in the Wildling encampment, but was saved by Stannis Baratheon, which is cool. Cersei basically beat Tywin by saying, I'm not going to marry Loras Tyrell, and if you make me marry Loras Tyrell, then I'm going to come clean about this whole thing about Jaime. Bran and the gang met up with, I guess, the children, technically. Met up with the children. We lost Jojen, but he knew he was going to die anyway, so Bran might fly. Brienne found Arya and ended up in a fight with the Hound. The Hound, I guess, is dead. We didn't technically see him die, so I suppose he could be alive, but I kind of doubt it. And Arya escaped all of them and is on her way to Braavos. And then Jaime broke Tyrion out of prison, only for Tyrion to go to Tywin and kill him, basically, which, yay. And then he got on a boat with Varys, and they are heading east. So, yeah, that was basically that. This is where I say no spoilers in the comments whatsoever. Let's stick to this episode and previous episodes of Game of Thrones that I've reacted to. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into Season 5, Episode 1. We're really making our way through this show, aren't we? So, yeah, let's get right to that. Here we go. Oh, also, because this is Episode 1 of a season, words, I don't know why I'm blanking on words right now. But if you go down in the description or to the pinned comment of this video, you can actually watch the full-length reaction of this episode for free. There's not going to be any show footage, so you're going to have to bring that yourself. Bring your own show footage. You can sync it up. I've tried to make it as easy as possible to sync up your own footage. And yeah, you can watch this full-length. And if you like watching it full-length, then consider going over to my Patreon page, where for $10 a month, you can watch every single full-length reaction I do. So, yeah, now with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this episode. Here we go. Huh. Charles Dance is still credited. That's interesting. Is Tywin not dead? Maybe he's not. Whoa, look at Winterfell. It's no longer smoking. It's got some gold on it. Did Roose Bolton fix up Winterfell? I guess that's good.
We shouldn't be out here alone.
Why not?
If your father
He'll never know we're gone.
But if he finds out...
You don't need to be afraid of my father.
Who is your father?
You're boring.
Alright.
I don't know what I am.
I know you're a witch. And
Oh.
you can see the future.
She can see the future.
Tell me mine.
I put on Game of Thrones, didn't I? Yeah. Nope.
I've been promised to the prince. When will we marry?
You'll never wed the prince.
Marcella?
You'll wed the king.
But I will be queen.
Come on, we have to go. We have to go. Cersei!
Oh. Okay. It's a flashback of Cersei. That's interesting. Alright, because that was very confusing, but alright. So that you know who my father is. She ends up marrying the king. She has 3 kids. But the king has 20 because Robert had a lot of bastards. Okay. Oh. This
Grace,
is why Charles
honoured
Dance
by
is
your
still
presence.
credited.
The mourners are waiting.
He loved you more than anyone in this world.
He wasn't too much of a fuck up as a Kingsguard. He just didn't like that he was a Kingsguard. I wonder how long he was in that box. Whoa, long enough to grow a beard, apparently.
Do you know what it's like to stuff your shit through one of those air holes?
Yeah.
I only know what it's like to pick up your shit and throw it overboard.
Ooh. I mean, he really bailed you out on this one.
We tried to do what was best for the realm by supporting a Targaryen restoration. Thus
Interesting.
began the chain of mistakes that has led us both here.
Oh, they're taking the statue down in Marine. I think that's Daenerys' theme. Jeez! I mean, do you think that's hard to do? They did have to plan that entire thing out. Whoa, 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 whoa!
Sons of the Harpy.
Yes, Your Grace. They left it on the body.
They were never killed before.
It was only a matter of time, Your Grace. Conquerors always meet with resistance.
Alright.
Conquer them, their own people did.
Sons of the Harpy.
They're poachers and thieves.
Oh, great. This guy's
Not
awake.
soldiers.
I have a question. Where's Stannis?
That one hates me.
That one hates everyone.
Are you a virgin?
No.
No.
Good.
Cool.
But if I'm to take Winterfell, I need more men.
The men of the
Okay.
Night's Watch are sworn to play no part.
Talking about the damn Night's Watch. Talking about the wildlings.
Huh. You want the wildlings on your side.
Your Grace,
Maybe.
You want the wildlings to march in your army.
If Mance kneels before me and swears his loyalty.
That might be the hard part.
Nightfall. Sun drops fast this time of year. Hurry,
Yeah.
Jon Snow.
Good luck with that.
Shield up.
Meanwhile, somewhere else.
My lord. Attack. Don't
Oh.
cross your feet.
They're training
My
Robin.
sons are so.
Some boys develop more slowly. He's still young.
Oh, that's cool. Just put that up your sleeve.
He has other gifts.
Cousin Lancel, I hardly recognized you.
My deepest sympathies.
Huh.
I apologize for my son's appearance.
Uncle, that's quite all right.
What? Why is he dressed like that? What happened to his hair? Is that even the same actor?
Bloody fanatics.
I tempted you into our unnatural relations. And of course, there was the king,
Which one?
his boar hunt,
Oh.
his wine.
You did give him all the wine.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I found peace in the light of the Seven. You can too. They watch
Okay.
over all of us, ready to dole out mercy or justice.
Okay.
You think I want that woman married to my brother?
If she doesn't marry me, she doesn't go to Highgarden, which means she stays in King's Landing, which means you're trapped here with Cersei Lannister as your mother by law.
Perhaps.
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 And you have compassion.
Compassion, yes. I killed my lover with my bare hands. I shot my own father with a crossbow.
I never said you were perfect. The Seven Kingdoms need someone stronger than Tommen, but gentler than Stannis. A
Oh.
monarch who can intimidate the High Lords and inspire the people. A ruler loved by millions with a powerful army and
know
a
where he's
right
going.
family name.
Good luck finding him.
Not him.
Who said anything about him? Or you can ride with me to Meereen, meet Daenerys Targaryen, and decide if the world is worth fighting for.
Holy shit. Yeah, he's...
Can I drink myself to death on the road to Meereen?
Oh my gosh. They're gonna go meet Daenerys. That's so cool, man. And it makes sense. He said the Targaryen restoration.
They ask for the reopening of the fighting pits.
The fighting pits.
Okay.
Where slaves fought slaves to the death.
In the new world that you've brought to us, free men would fight free men.
They want to be fighters.
The
They
pit fighters
can.
you liberated plead for this opportunity.
I'm only here because of those pits. I learned to fight like a Dothraki screamer, a Norvoshi priest, a Westerosi knight. Soon I was famous. 10,000 men and women screamed my name when I stepped into the pit. I made so much money for my master. He set me free when he died.
Huh.
I joined the Second Sons, and then I met you.
Interesting. I suppose some good can come from them. I don't like how quiet they are. Could've taken a torch, done this in the daylight. I really don't like how quiet this is. They're gonna freaking jump scare or something. Or they're gonna be dead. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at this. They're gonna jump scare, it's gonna be scary. Ah! Fuck did I tell you? They got bigger, didn't they?
Easy.
God, and they're not as big as Drogon. Oh, shit. So she's gonna need to work with them.
I think you're making a terrible mistake.
The freedom to make my own mistakes was all I ever wanted.
Yeah, that's true. He's still free.
Kneel and live.
Is he gonna do it?
This was my home for many years. I wish you good fortune in the wars to come.
Nope. He's sticking to his guns.
We choose the true God or the false.
And Jon's like 8 gods ago, so he's on the old gods, they're the new gods, and then there's her god.
Free folk.
Yeah. But quit smiling. Oh, damn, Jon. Oh, put him out of his misery. And that's it. Damn, Jon. Okay. Ah. Whew, boy, that was something, I gotta say. I'd say that's a pretty, almost a mellow start to this season, but still pretty strong. You know, it's kind of like last season we like finished a bunch of stuff, and it's like now it's time we set a bunch of other stuff up. So yeah. There's a hair on my arm. More than just the normal hair, like a head hair that was loose. All right. So let's just go ahead and go over the notes. The first thing I wrote down was the witch / Cersei. So interesting little flashback we got there. We really haven't gotten any flashbacks in Game of Thrones. So it's interesting that we open up on that. And, you know, for a little bit I was like, you know, okay, who is this girl? Like, I don't know. And it's like, you know, she says like, I'm gonna marry the prince, and it's like, is that Marcella? Are we in Dorne? This doesn't really look like Dorne, but okay, maybe. And it's like, oh, this is Cersei, and she found a witch to predict her future, and she did learn that she was going to marry the king, but technically not have the king's children. You know, it's like, the king will have 20 children and you will have 3. And she's like, well, that doesn't make sense. How does that work? And it's like, okay, well, that's in reference to Robert having a ton of bastards. So that's actually interesting that that's the definitive number. So Robert had 17 bastards, technically. Unless that's in reference to the fact that, unless it's actually that Robert had 20 bastards, if the witch is not counting, you know, Cersei's 3 children, Joffrey, Tommen, and Marcella, as part of those. So it could just be that he has 20 bastard children. So yeah. So that's definitely interesting. We had a bit of Tywin's funeral. It's interesting. I don't know. It's interesting to see Tywin's funeral. Well, not exactly a funeral, but sort of, you know, Cersei and Jaime talking about it, and, you know, Cersei blaming Jaime for this, which, in effect, yes, it's true, this is Jaime's fault because he released Tyrion, and she was super pissed about that. It's like, at least Tyrion killed him on purpose. It's like, ooh, that's pretty harsh. And now it's like, now that I think about it, it's like, yeah, who does inherit Casterly Rock? Because Cersei has to remain in King's Landing, you know, as the Queen Regent, and if she remarried, she would just go off somewhere else. You know, if she married Loras, she would go off to Highgarden. And so, yeah, it's like she can't inherit Casterly Rock. And Jaime is still, you know, sworn to the Kingsguard. So maybe we'll get into that a bit. Like, maybe Jaime will finally leave the Kingsguard. Because otherwise, Casterly Rock... I guess Casterly Rock goes to Tywin's brother. That would be the next line of succession. So yeah, that's interesting. We got a bit of talk about the Targaryen restoration, which is Varys's, I guess, true plan. So, and he's been doing this, he's been preparing this, I guess, since Robert's been the king, so that's a long time, you know, because he and a bunch of people, like, realized that Robert Baratheon was a terrible king. And, you know, he said this early on in season 1, you know, to Ned. He was like, the king is a fool. Your friend, I know, but a fool. So, he did not like Robert Baratheon. And that's interesting. So now he's been working on the Targaryen restoration, and the only way to do that is through Daenerys, and now he's basically recruiting Tyrion into this whole thing, which, now, I don't know if Daenerys is even aware of all this, you know? And I wonder almost, like, maybe this whole Targaryen restoration plan, like, I guess technically, was Jorah in on that? You know, yes, he was a spy, but wasn't he a spy through Varys? So that makes me wonder now if Varys will try to bring back Jorah, because we haven't had any of Jorah, and, you know, he just kind of left, and it's like, come back, I like Jorah. So yeah, maybe, but yeah, I don't know how much Daenerys really knows about this whole Targaryen restoration movement to get her back. Like, it's people that are specifically trying to get her, well, trying to get a Targaryen back on the throne. I imagine the plan was originally to put Viserys on the throne, but then he died, so it's like, okay, well, then we're gonna move on to Daenerys, and now, so it's like, I wonder, it's like, if she doesn't know about this restoration, this Targaryen restoration, technically, this group that wants this, like, it'll be interesting to see if Varys will, like, go to her and, like, explain everything. And I guess become one of her advisors, which would be really cool. And now he's bringing along Tyrion, which is pretty cool. So, yeah. I wrote down Sons of the Harpy. That was an interesting little thing we put in there. Where, yeah, like, just the Sons of the Harpy, which I assume are, like, it from the mask it had, like, it seems like this cult, maybe, you know, obviously that must oppose Daenerys' rule over Meereen. So, yeah, I guess that was the way to send a message, was to kill, what was it, White Rat or something? I think that was the name of that Unsullied. Something like that. So, yeah, that is definitely, that's interesting that we're kind of throwing in this cult in Meereen. Although I suppose it's not necessarily Meereen, because I think Yunkai and Astapor also had statues of the Harpy goddess, I suppose. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that comes in. Maybe that'll be, you know, how maybe Tyrion will come in and be like, oh, here, why don't I, like, maybe that'll be his task, is to defeat the Sons of the Harpy, and then Daenerys will be like, all right, you're cool then. Because, I don't know, I would imagine, I almost wonder if Daenerys will have a bit of a hard time with Tyrion. Like, maybe she'll have a little bias against him, because when you really stop and think about it, it's like, well, Tywin was the hand of the king to King Aerys, and then betrayed him when Aerys, you know, welcomed his old friend back into King's Landing. It's like, and then Tywin sacked the city. So Daenerys probably doesn't like that. And on top of that, the fact that Jaime was the one that actually killed her father, basically, you know? Like, will that be a little awkward? It's like, okay, well, your brother killed my father. It's like, I don't know, there might be some animosity there. You know, she might not like any Lannister, but I don't know, we'll see. That's going to be an interesting meeting. And I suppose it is sort of what I said last episode, where it's like, you know, oh, well, Stannis is now in the north, and it's like, oh, plot lines are intersecting. Stannis' story and Jon's story have now become one and the same. I guess that'll be the same thing going on here, is that Tyrion's story is now intersecting with Daenerys' story, which is nice. I wrote down the election, basically. So, yeah, they are going to be holding basically an election to figure out who's going to be the new Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. And right now, it's Alliser Thorne, which you guys did point out that it's Alliser, not Alistair. There's no T in there, which is interesting. So yeah, it's Alliser Thorne is one of the candidates, but there is someone that is actually running against him, which is interesting. You know, this is basically the only form of democracy we've seen in Game of Thrones. Like, because everything else is basically an absolute monarchy, or I suppose, you know, in places like Qarth, where it's like there's the 13 people that rule over Qarth, you could call that a bit of a parliamentary system, I suppose, but there's not one head, you know, there's no like Prime Minister of Qarth or something, and I doubt that any of them were elected, so yeah. So that's interesting. And they've mentioned the election before because, you know, that one guy was like, oh, well, maybe it would be good if Jon went and died at Craster's Keep, because, you know, Jon is very popular and he might be chosen as the next Lord Commander, which would be interesting. I wrote down Stannis and Mance. It does make sense that Stannis, because this has been Stannis' whole thing, is that he's done everything that he could to get soldiers in order to fight the war so that he can take the Iron Throne. So it makes sense that he would want to recruit the wildlings because he needs more men. And the wildlings would probably be really good. And it's a solid offer anyway, because, it's a solid offer because they're trying to get, south of the wall anyway, and they want to be safe south of the wall for when, winter is coming. So Stannis basically offers that in return for fighting in the war on his side, which Mance just cannot accept. And that does make sense that he doesn't want that. He said, he told Jon, it's like, if you let us south of the wall, I promise you that we will not kill anyone. We will go south of the wall peacefully, because he was like, I don't want any more bloodshed. We're done with that. We don't need that. So it does make sense, but he doesn't want his people to die for Stannis. He doesn't want to bend the knee to Stannis, and he would rather have them die in winter north of the wall than serve some foreigner, from the south. So that does make sense. And then at the end, because the punishment is, burning alive, that does suck, but it's really interesting that Jon, mercy killed him, basically, took an arrow and just shot right into his heart, and then he died. So he didn't have to really suffer that long. It'll be interesting to see what the reaction to that is from Stannis. Because Stannis didn't seem that upset about it. He just kind of looked, and then he looked up, and he was like, he didn't really change his expression at all. So it'll be interesting to see, will Jon be punished for this or something? It's like, I don't know, but that's interesting. It's interesting that Jon basically just put Mance out of his misery. So yeah. I wrote down perhaps. There's not a lot to go on this one, but that conversation between Loras and Marjorie, where it's like, if Cersei doesn't marry me, she won't be in Highgarden, which means you're stuck with her in King's Landing. And Marjorie just goes, perhaps. And Loras is like, perhaps? What do you mean, perhaps? And then the scene just kind of cuts there. It is one of these things where it's like, what does she mean, perhaps? So, really not a lot to go on. Not a whole lot I can discuss right now. But I get the feeling that's going to come back, so I just wanted to write it down and mention it here. We had the fighting rings, which was interesting. That the fighting rings seemed to be the one concession that the old masters wanted. Was, nothing about slavery, but just free men fighting. And I guess they would be free to fight, basically. Like, it's their choice to fight in a fighting ring. So it makes sense that Daenerys would oppose this, but it also does make sense why she should do it, because, obviously, they would have the choice to be fighters. They wouldn't be enslaved to be fighters. And she already made the concession to that one guy who wanted to be, who wanted to sell himself back into slavery to his master so he could continue to be a teacher. And she gave the concessions like, okay, you can write up a contract, but it cannot last longer than a year. So it'd be interesting if she does concede the fighting rings, basically. So yeah. And then the last thing I wrote down was the dragons, which, yeah, she's gonna need to work to regain. She needs to regain their trust now. Like, they don't trust her because, they've been locked away for weeks. So, and they've gotten a lot bigger. It's amazing they haven't just broken through those chains. Yeah, why didn't those chains break as their necks got bigger? I don't know, whatever. But yeah, so they don't trust her anymore, and she seemed kind of afraid of them. So it is going to have to be this process of, gaining their trust. And they said they have no idea where Drogon is. Drogon's been gone for weeks. We have no idea where he is. She said he could have flown halfway across the world by now. So, yeah, it'll also be interesting to see, if she can... I imagine what's going to happen is she's going to have to regain the other two dragons' trust and figure out how to control them and then apply that to Drogon if she can find them. If she can find him, basically. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how she basically regains the trust of her dragons. But if she can, she might actually be able to tame them, you know? Because previously it was just that, you know, they trusted her because she was their mother, and then they started to, you know, she basically lost control over them. So now she has to regain all of that, but it would probably, if she can regain that, it'll be an even stronger connection than the one she had. So, yeah, a lot of interesting stuff in this episode. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here. I'm very curious as to where the show goes. What's going to happen in the wars to come. So, yeah, that's basically it. That's all I wrote. That's all we got. And, yeah, I'm very curious to see where we're going with this season and with this show in general. So, yeah, with all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of my Game of Thrones reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.